Hey, everybody. Welcome back to Agree to Disagree. We're here for our second show this week. I'm Noah Schwartz alongside Aiden Chard, Dean Gudick, and Jack Asello. We're back today with a special episode, definitely something we didn't expect to do, but something we feel is important to do following the events of the last 24 hours or so. Yesterday was one of the more monumental sports days in recent history as teams boycotted across the various leagues, starting with the NBA's Milwaukee Bucks, and it expanded to Major League Baseball, WNBA, MLS. It was a pretty far-reaching boycott. So we wanted to talk about it, describe our feelings on it, what may happen going forward, and just how we support the players and whatever they feel is best. So, Dean, I know you were definitely on top of this all day yesterday, as we all were. Tell me what went through your head as you found out that the Milwaukee Bucks were first going to boycott their game against Orlando following the three postponements in the NBA and then all the other postponements that went on throughout the rest of the day.
Yeah, it was like a huge wave hit the sports world yesterday. It was, a lot of people didn't expect this, but I completely respect and agree with the Bucks are doing, boycotting the NBA, boycotting racial injustice. Some wonder, of course, and we discussed this yesterday, Noah, what boycotting does. Nike, relies on the NBA, Time Warner, Disney, all these big companies rely on the NBA. And if the NBA is not playing, boycotting's gonna, this what happens. If these guys boycott, the NBA loses out on money, loses out on ratings, loses out on sponsorships. The NBA loses out. And boycotting forces the NBA to make a move and forces these companies to actually do something and try to say something. But a big shockwave just hit me. I was surprised, but this was the right move, and I was happy that it continued throughout the NBA, the Thunder and Rockets, and then the Lakers, Blazers. I don't believe games are going to be played played today. You also had leagues like the MLS who canceled games. The MLB had some canceled games. I respect that the Bucks started this trend and started to, wanted other leagues and teams like take note of what the Bucks are doing, start a movement and send a message throughout the sports world.
But then on the other hand, you had the NHL, who, and granted, the NHL compared to other leagues is not as diverse in terms of the races of the players, but still, it's a major sport, and there are people of color that play in the NHL, and they didn't cancel or postpone any games. They did have, I believe, a moment of silence before games, but it was not, thoughts and prayers only go so far. What really makes a difference is people showing that they're willing to sacrifice things and take chances. And the NHL didn't show that. So I hope that the NHL chooses to, follow the path of the NBA and the MLB and the MLS and not play all of their games tonight. I hope that teams together can make the decision that if the NHL does want to play tonight, they will boycott. I do think that would be a good thing because, for these players, it's got to be difficult for these players. They're risking wins in the playoffs. They could be forfeiting a game. They're risking their reputation in the league. They're risking potentially money.
I bet their health, Aiden. They're stuck in these bubbles, a lot of them.
They're risking their health, yeah. But it's something that they need to do, and I'm glad that in the NBA players did decide to do that. They stood up for what they believed in, and they did the right thing, in my opinion. And then with the poll last night with the NBA players, it was every team except the Lakers and Clippers decided to continue the season, which was a little bit surprising, but it does show a lot. I mean, we know LeBron James is a huge activist, a great person, and I think that he had a major, he was probably the reason that the Lakers decided to vote to cancel the season. So I'm definitely interested in seeing where that all goes. If the NBA does decide to cancel the season, what happens if just those two teams want to end the season now, or their games canceled? Are they out of the playoffs and everybody else keeps playing? Or does the NBA respect the wishes of one team, two teams, and end the season for everybody? It's definitely a difficult situation for the NBA right now. They need to talk with players and come up with the right course of action, which is definitely going to be difficult.
Yeah, I agree with pretty much everything you guys said. Like Dean said, the NBA, they could be at risk of losing money, sponsorships. There's potential if they decide to cancel the season that an NBA lockout could happen again. I don't think anyone wants to see that. Dean told us earlier right before we started recording that Woj tweeted out that there's a lot of optimism that the playoffs will continue. So that's obviously a good sign. But like you guys said, I have no problems with what the Milwaukee Bucks did. They stood up for what they believed in. It happened in their city, so I think it was only right that they were the first team to step up and do what they believed in. So no problems with that. And it was really incredible to me to see how impactful it was and how it spread throughout all the other sports so quickly.
And I think it's important to mention, Jack, that this police brutality issue is definitely something that really hits close to home for the Bucks, not just because of this incident with Jacob Blake in Wisconsin, but also because one of their own players really had a public situation that relates to this just recently. Sterling Brown, one of their young players, got in an altercation with a police officer just a couple of years ago, and it was a big situation and definitely went public and people knew about it. And so that definitely, relates to it and is pretty similar to what happened in this situation this week. So it definitely hits close to home for the Bucks. And as you said, it's only right that as the Wisconsin basketball team that they stood up and showed what they believed in for an incident that happened obviously in their state. It really hits close to home in that regard too. But for one of their players, I mean, he definitely can relate to this in a significant way.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. The Bucks did a team statement after, which was phenomenal. The players all took out the papers, but the team did a statement upon themselves, and I thought it was very powerful. The Bucks team, I believe, after called the attorney general and the lieutenant in Wisconsin, and I thought it was a very powerful thing that they were trying to do.
I will say there are a few teams and players that I just want to give a shout out to, basically saying good job. Obviously the Bucks, but kind of going hand in hand with that is the Magic. The Magic had the chance to basically say we want to play. Regardless of whether or not the Bucks want to play, they could have stayed out there and forced the Bucks to forfeit that game, take the win. They didn't do that because it was the right thing to do. And then the Milwaukee Brewers also went out and said, hey, we saw what the Bucks are doing and we stand with them. We want to boycott our game. And I'm not sure who they were playing. I can't remember, but
I think it was Cincinnati.
They both decided to boycott the game. And then there have been several players in the NHL. I can't remember their names off the top of my head, but they've been speaking out against the NHL. It really seems like a pretty big group of people in the NHL, of players and coaches, have been saying that the NHL was wrong for playing games last night. Obviously, I mentioned LeBron James earlier. He's been doing great. And just athletes from all sports, of all races, of all different abilities, they've been speaking out, they've been tweeting, they've been talking to the media, they've been doing whatever, because it really is important that we know how these players feel. There's a lot of people who say they want to keep protests out of sports, keep politics out of sports or whatever, but sports have always been political. It's not a new thing that protests are entering sports, that politics are entering sports. I think it's a really important part of sports, and we have to defend that. We have to allow athletes to be able to speak out and say what they believe.
Yeah. I mean, Aiden, I was going to say this could be a trend that, continues in the NFL season and other sports, of course, even European soccer. You saw in the MLS yesterday, Toronto player Josie Altidore, after the NBA postponed their games, he said, MLS, what's next? And then the MLS players from Inter Miami and Atlanta stood in solidarity. I think that's how you say that word. They all stood together, and they didn't play the rest of the games. And I thought it was a huge message. J.R. Smith from your LA Lakers, Noah, had a huge message saying, "You can't hear us. Well, now you can't see us." And I thought that was a very, very deep, powerful message by J.R. Smith, implicating his thoughts on the NBA. But there was also something interesting yesterday about the rumors. Me and Jack knows that we discussed yesterday. The Clippers player rep Terrence Mann tweeted out that it was cap, which means lies all over, put your phones down, as in regards to the rumors that were going on yesterday with the postponed season and the Clippers voting against.
Well, I think there was some confusion, Dean, because I think when it first came out, some of these rumors, people thought that it meant that there was a final vote yesterday, and the Clippers and Lakers said, "We're out, we're not playing, this is a final thing."
Yes.
It turns out that, and I saw this clarified a little bit later, that it was more of just an informal poll to see who was more interested in playing than who else. And it seemed like every team outside of the Lakers and Clippers was pretty adamant that they wanted to play, but again, just an informal poll just to see where everybody's heads were at. But I did think it was interesting, and you mentioned this, I think it was Jack who's touched on this before, that specifically the Lakers and Clippers, or maybe it was Aiden actually, the Lakers and Clippers were the ones who specifically voted no. And I thought that was interesting because obviously as two of the leaders in the championship race, two of the teams that most people think will win the title, it was interesting that they're the ones opting out. But I also thought it was interesting because I felt that those two teams specifically had done a really good job of taking on this dual role while in the bubble. And, we talked a lot about this before the bubble, that they were going down there to play, but also going down there to, promote social justice and equality. And LeBron had said, I think it was after game 4, half my head is in terms of basketball wanting to win this title, but my other half, I'm thinking about social justice. And I thought those two teams specifically had done a really good job with that. I mean, obviously LeBron, Doc Rivers, like two of the more prominent people speaking out in the NBA. And I was surprised that those were the two teams who decided that they didn't want to play as much, because they seem to really be taking on this challenge and really doing a great job with it compared to everybody else. I mean, the whole league is doing really well, but I thought those two teams specifically were really at the top of their games in terms of just both on the floor, but also off the floor. So we'll see what happens from here. But I can't imagine the season will continue if the Lakers and Clippers opt out of it, because that does nothing for the NBA. You got to have everybody play or nobody play. You want to be united. You definitely want to have total unity on this issue. And I think that brings me to my next question that I want to just ask you guys quick. Some of the teams yesterday in that meeting said that they were upset with the Bucks, that they didn't really communicate that they were planning to boycott to the other teams, because I think they were like, "Hey, why didn't you tell us? We would have also done this at the exact same time as you." Now, some people like Jaylen Brown didn't need an explanation. They were fine with it. But what do you guys think on that? Would you have, if you were in the NBA or, just as an outsider, would you prefer to have total unity, or were you fine with the Bucks just doing what they thought was the best thing in the locker room?
I think it can kind of go both ways.
Yeah.
Personally, I think what the Bucks did was right.
Glass half full.
Yeah. I think what the Bucks did was right. I think it was the right idea for them to not tell anyone, to just do it, because that, like, it's not the the element of surprise, but like the fact that nobody knew they were doing it and it happened, it showed. I read a tweet somewhere, I can't remember exactly what it was, but like, what's the difference between this and everything else that's happened in the NBA bubble since the restart? They've been having messages on their jerseys, they've been kneeling for the anthem, things like that. The difference is this was not sanctioned. The NBA didn't sign off on it. They were doing it knowing full well they could get punished for it. And had they told other teams, there's a chance that the NBA could have caught wind of it and said, you know what, to support these teams, we're canceling games. And then it kind of ruins the purpose of it. This isn't about wanting the NBA to cancel the games necessarily. I think for the players, it was more about the players wanting to take the stand and say, we want to be the ones to end these games, which is why it's so important to not talk about, in my opinion, I think we shouldn't be talking about this as, the NBA canceled the games as much as the players canceled the games. And of course, it would have been great to see the other two teams or the other two games have the same outcome as the Bucks, have everybody do the same thing. But it could have ended up just getting the NBA involved, and that would have taken away some of the weight of the protest.
Yeah, I agree with everything you just said.
Sorry that I just took talked for so long.
That's
Don't
okay.
worry.
I just wake up a little.
No. So I think that, it's important, Aiden, to mention, as you said, you want to have unity on this, but at the same time, it really doesn't matter. Whatever the players feel is the best thing to do seems to work, and that's exactly the approach you want to take. Now, what do you guys think on the games going forward? I know today I heard on First Take before Stephen A. Smith said he doesn't think that games will be played today, but tomorrow, the next day, next week, next month, what do you think is better for the league? Do you think it's better to have guys in the bubble playing and also doing their work in terms of social justice? Or do you think it's better to just axe this thing, send everybody home, keep them safe from COVID, all that? Or would you rather keep playing the games? I know as sports fans, we want to see the games, but just from a social justice perspective, what do you think is a better, more effective method going forward?
I think they should definitely keep playing because I think they can definitely spread their message better if they're playing. They're in front of the cameras and they can spread what they want to. They can say what they want to say. They can spread the word. And I feel like you can't do that from inside your house when nobody's watching and nobody's listening. That's just my opinion on it.
Unless you're a superstar, but not everyone in the NBA and
Like
whatever
nobody's gonna
leagues
hear.
is.
Nobody's gonna hear like here. The biggest example is the Bucks. If you cancel the season, no one's gonna hear Sterling Brown's message like they did the other day because nobody even probably knows who he is. I'm not no disrespect. I'm not trying to be mean, but
No, but you're right. I mean,
yeah, what I'm saying, like none of these like bench players in the NBA are gonna be able to get their message across if they're not in the bubble because only people are gonna focus on the LeBron James and the Jason Tatums and the Lucas.
Right.
Well, LeBron's also the voice of the NBA, so whatever he says or does will impact the whole league. He's like the anchor of the league, the voice of the league.
Right. So you guys pretty much in agreement that the game should continue?
I think the games have to continue. For the NBA or for, I guess, every league. The league has to say the games are going to continue. The players have to decide.
Yeah, I feel like players have to decide, but also I think it's like Dean said earlier in this, it's going to kind of be like what happened with Kobe. Like they're going to stay out a couple days and they're going to resume. Because also I think at the end of the day, like part of it, like I know they're trying to fight for this, but there's a risk they're just going to, the players themselves can lose just so much money because if they go into a lockout.
That's something that they have to be willing to sacrifice for the greater good.
Yeah, how far are you willing to go?
And I actually think they would be willing to sacrifice.
I think many of them would.
Financial implications of this.
Yeah, possibly.
Yeah, I mean.
Sorry.
Okay. I mean, if they resume this season, you're going to have to, I feel like, I don't want to get too political with this, you're going to have to use your platform more. I mean, of course, the messages on the jerseys and the court, but I feel like these players, the leagues themselves, Adam Silver, all these guys are going to really have to voice up, their opinion, really say something and take action. That's like LeBron said, he wants the league, he wants the owners to take action. I feel like more of these guys are going to have to say something and take action.
Yeah, but also I think they should, after games, they shouldn't answer any basketball-related questions. They should just talk about social injustice and what the message that they want to spread.
Yeah.
In a way, don't answer their game plans and how they felt. Just talk about social injustice.
And I think one thing that I would like to see for sure, because at the beginning of the bubble, I think it was maybe the first day or two, they did show a lot of the national anthems being played, and they showed players kneeling and whatever messages they were trying to spread during that time. And they haven't really shown them since. They've just been going right to the games. They have not shown the Star Spangled Banner being played and what players are reacting to it.
Yeah.
So I think that would be a thing that maybe the players could request going forward, say, for every single playoff game, we want to have our time to show exactly what we're standing for or kneeling for. And they could show that on the television for all the fans to see. But I do think that it is kind of hard to request more out of the owners. They've already donated millions and millions of dollars to some of these foundations and to promote justice and equality. And so they definitely have shown that they're willing to take steps to do it. So I'm just not sure exactly what the players are going to be able to request that's realistic, I guess, out of the owners. They seem to have done a lot already. So we'll see what they are able to do going forward even more. But I just hope that this whole boycott wasn't for nothing. I really hope that it does spur change. I think that you guys all obviously would agree with that, but we'll see what these owners are willing to do in terms of, financial implications and, what they're willing to sacrifice.
One thing I do want to know that I'm just interested in figuring out is So what happens if like the NBA takes a vote? They're apparently having another meeting right around now in the bubble. Um, what if the NBA takes a vote and, 70% of players, for instance, want to cancel the season? That's a majority,
Yeah, so
but
that you cancel.
but do you cancel it for those 70%? What about those 30% who want to keep playing? Or what if it's even smaller? What if it's like 55-45? Is that enough to cancel the season? Does it have to be unanimous? Does it have to be just a majority? Like,
I
what is
would
it?
I would think it has to be. It would have to be a percentage like you just mentioned for them to cancel it. Just because if 55 or 65 or 75, whatever it is, players say percent of the players say they want out, and they're all saying we're not going to play anymore. Well, that then risks the health of the players, right? Because then you're
Mhm.
going to have less guys on each roster. Obviously, you may have teams that opt out entirely, and now it just messes up the competitive balance of the sport. Obviously, you're risking guys in terms of playing too many minutes. You're going to put them on the floor too often. So I think at that point, the league would just have to say there's not enough momentum on our side to keep this going. But I honestly don't believe that will happen. I do think there's enough players out there. I mean, 16 or what was it? 13 teams, I believe it was last night, said they wanted to play. Only 2 said they wanted out. So I'm of the belief that they'll keep playing. I think you guys all kind of
Me
feel
too.
that.
Yeah.
But if they were to come out today and the board of governors meeting and these players meeting that they're doing now, and they came out and said, we've kind of reached a decision that we don't want to do this anymore, it wouldn't shock me because what they're willing to sacrifice here is more than basketball. And they're willing to sacrifice their careers and it seems like money and whatever else it is to promote social justice and equality for the Black community going forward because they want to show solidarity with obviously the shooting in Wisconsin and everywhere else that these sorts of actions have taken place.
Yeah. Also, Woj, the latest update I want to give. Woj tweeted out 20 minutes ago, conversations have been ongoing throughout the morning among owners, league executives, coaches, and players about how the league can restart these playoffs. Sources tell ESPN the players and board of governors have separate meetings set to start now. That was 20 minutes ago. So it sounds like they're trying to find a way to keep it going and to spread the message further. So that's a good sign.
Yeah, I saw that tweet, yeah.
Now, what do you guys think other leagues could do? Because we focused on basketball, they're obviously at the forefront of this, but just as a Mets fan, last night the speech given by Dominic Smith post game was just heartbreaking, and he kneeled before the game where nobody else on the team really did, and he just kind of looked alone out there taking a stand, and nobody else was even willing to just do that, taking a knee. Where do you think other leagues should go? Because baseball is definitely not as advanced in these social activist movements as basketball is. I don't think soccer is. Hockey definitely is not. I don't think football is even close. So if you were some of these other leagues that are either playing now or going to start up in the next few weeks, few months, where do you go from here?
I think the place to start is what you said. Definitely like show the national anthem, show where you stand, like have them like united, show it on TV. I thought that was a good idea. Also before the broadcast like starts, maybe like give like a dedication, like this game goes out to, like kind of like that. That could be good.
Okay.
Go ahead, Dean. Now you go.
I was laughing at you because you were like this the whole time.
Yeah. Someone's upstairs dropping things on my ceiling, apparently. So no, I just think that it's definitely going to be difficult. I think the NFL has the most to think about right now about how they want to deal with this. The MLB, the NHL, and the NBA, they're thinking on the fly, but I think that it's going to be more difficult. There's going to be more scrutiny on the NFL because they're going to have weeks to think about this. So whatever they do, they have to make sure it's the best option. I think the best thing that they can do is kind of keep on the track that they've been going on with, they've said we support players kneeling during the anthem. That's huge. If they had said that they don't support it still, then players aren't going to be kneeling. But they
probably wouldn't be playing.
Yeah, that too. I think they should do something similar to what the NBA is doing in terms of jerseys. I think it would be really interesting to be able to see messages on the backs of jerseys instead of names. Although I do get that might be more difficult for a 53-man team as opposed to a 12-man team. And then there's they supposedly are going to be playing the Black national anthem for week 1. I think that's something that has to happen for every week. It's a little thing, but why just week 1? Racism isn't a thing that's going to be solved by playing a song 16 times. It's going to be solved by playing it at every game, every week for the entire season, and maybe for the rest of the NFL, like the future too. I think this isn't something that we should just stop after one game. That's my thoughts on the NFL.
I mean, it's you mentioned it, and of course, not just it's not going to help in a week. When they mentioned the first few games of playoffs or bubble in the NBA, like Noah said, they just post a kneeling and then that's it. I feel like one game, 1 week, 1 day is not going to be enough. You're going to have to do it throughout if you want to get your message across more. If you want the people to see more and see what these leagues are doing and where they're going, I feel like putting this stuff on TV, getting the message out there every day is key. I think it's the how do I say it? It's the way to go. But you mentioned other leagues, the NBA, the MLS, the NBA has like a legislation. I feel like the owners can meet, whereas the NFL is not even close to that. Like that's the thing. I feel like the NBA owners, the players could have more like common ground, whereas the NFL would be like more separated.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah,
there just seems to be more of a divide there. The NBA owners seem to be really united with the players on this. I mean, I think every single franchise, I don't know if it was 30 out of 30, but I believe it was almost every team, came out with some sort of a statement yesterday. I mean, even the New York Knicks did, and they never do things like that. So at least you can see that these franchises are really starting to take a stand and make it clear like where they are on this issue.
Yeah, definitely.
So, all right. I think we've talked a lot about this for today. It's definitely not been an easy couple of days just watching all this go down. The shooting, the video, I mean, I think everybody that's watching this has seen it. It's an awful video. It's terrifying. It's horrible. And I just hope that maybe this shooting will spur some change because it seemed like the one before this and the one before that really didn't do anything. I hope that we can just figure something out and just keep going forward in a positive way. But it doesn't seem like right now this country is anywhere near a solution. But as for us and agree to disagree, we're trying to be part of the solution. Again, we're sports people. We're not always, so politically inclined all the time, but we're trying as best as we can to be a part of the change and help out as much as we can through this show and through our social media. So, we're not going to be back on campus anytime soon because of COVID, but we're going to keep doing these shows here. We're going to be on Zoom all the time. We're going to talk about it. We're going to be open and vocal about our views on sports and on issues like these. So we'll definitely be active and out there. So make sure you follow us on our social medias, watch our YouTube. We're now on Spotify. Make sure you listen to us there. We'll be on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify. We're now on Facebook now. So we're active. We're going to be out there. We're going to make sure that you guys know where we stand on a lot of these issues, as well as once the games come back, if they come back, where we stand on some of those issues as well. But that's it for us today. Thanks for watching, everyone. We appreciate the support. We definitely do. Follow us at 1306 Sports as well. We just hope that we can find a solution somewhere, sometime soon, in terms of this country and where race is, because the divide right now is just too big.
Yeah,
definitely. You said it best. Yeah.
All right. Have a good one, everybody.
There's not much more to say.
Yeah, we appreciate the support. Thank you so much.